So good day everyone, this is Dennis Kinikito Ipon. For today's video, I am going to discuss the idea in US under the inclusive education in other countries, Unit 1 definition, goals and scope of special education. But before that, let us know first our learning objectives. So at the end of the lesson, the student will be able to identify and explain the impact of Individuals with Disabilities Education Act in US through artworks, create artworks about Individual with Disabilities Education Act through poster and collage, appreciate the importance of individuals with disabilities in education. So try to look at in the screen. So what did you see in the screen? Right, that's Individual with Disabilities Education Act or student with disability who are studying. So I think that you are familiar what is our topic for today, right? So let's proceed. Education has always been a crucial aspect of the civil rights movement. Before being outlawed by the US Supreme Court in 1954, racial segregation in school was the norm. During that time, many states also had laws burying children with various types of disabilities, including children who were blind, deaf, or perceived to be intellectually disabled or with a mental health disability, from attending public schools or attaining public education. However, this changed with the enactment of the Education for All Handicapped Children Act in 1975, which was later changed to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act or IDEA. So, in 1975, the idea was called the Education for Handicapped Children Act or IHA, but now it is changed to IDEA. So, what is IDEA? So, the Individuals with Disability Education Act or IDEA is the federal law that supports special education and related services programming for children and youth with disabilities. This federal legislation is designed to ensure that children with disabilities be granted a free, appropriate public education in the less restrictive environment. So, IDEA does the following and ensure that children with disabilities be prepared for employment, children with identified disability receive special education, children with disabilities and their families protected, assesses and ensures the efforts of institutions, provides assistance to states, localities, federal agencies, and provide educational agencies for students with disabilities. So, the U.S. Department of Education sums up IDEA in simple terms on its website. It notes that the law specifies how states and public agencies provide early intervention, special education, and related services to more than 6.5 million eligible infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities. So, let's move on the laws that shape special education in the United States. As a parent of a child with disabilities, your days are hectic and your energy is spent taking care of your child's daily needs. It can seem like school is another obstacle, a force to struggle with rather than a force to help your child thrive to the fullest degree. So here are 6 top laws that shape special education. Number 1, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act or IDEA. This law is central to the concept of special education in America. The Individual with Disabilities Education Act or IDEA was originally known as the Education of Handicapped Children Act passed in 1975. So as what I have said earlier, that the idea before was called an Education of Handicapped Children Act on 1975. And in 1990, Congress passed amendments to the law and most recently reauthorized it in 2004. So IDEA provides funding for special education services and lays out key principles protecting the rights of children with disabilities, including all children are entitled to a free, appropriate public education, which people commonly call FAPE. Education for students with disabilities should happen in the less restrictive environment or LEP, which can mean including children with special needs in regular classrooms as much as possible. Every child receiving special education services must get an Individualized Education Program or IEP, which is guiding plan that should be regularly revisited and updated, tailored to each children and describing what services they must receive. So the idea in US provides funding for special education services and lays out key principles protecting the right of children with disabilities. So number 2, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So outside of special education itself as described by IDEA, the next federal law you've likely heard about for students with disability is Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So this is a civil rights law, meaning it focuses only on prohibiting discrimination against children based on disability. So Section 504 provides for the creation of supports and accommodation for children with disabilities in many cases through modification to educational programs. So this Section 504, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, it focuses only on prohibiting discrimination against children based on disability. So number 3, the Americans with Disabilities Act or ADA of 1990. So the Americans with Disabilities Act or ADA is another breakthrough civil rights law for people with disabilities targeting discrimination. It covers all people with disabilities, not just school-age children, but its requirements of public accommodation for people with disabilities also applies in schools. For many people, the first thoughts that come to mind regarding the ADA are ramps at buildings that are accessible to wheelchairs, parking spaces for people with disabilities, and accessible bathroom stalls. So number 4, Family and Educational Rights Privacy Act or FERPA or FERPA. So if you're struggling with a school's district to get the proper services for your child, this federal law could be an important to help you build your case, and it protects us students the right to privacy in some situation. So it affords parents the rights to have access to their children's educational records and to have information amendment of its deemed incorrect. So the law protects privacy by requiring written permission to share information from a child's educational records to anyone other than a select group of people with legitimate needs to be able to review the records. So number 5, the Assistive Technology Act. So this law first passed in 1998 and reauthorized in 2004. Provides funding for technology that helps people with disabilities get equal access to educational career and other opportunities available to people with disabilities. Technologies available under the Assistive Technology Act could include large format computer keyboards, voice recognition software, voice amplifier, hearing aids, magnification devices, reaching devices, walkers, medical equipment, adaptive sports gear, and more. So this act focuses only on people with disabilities to get equal access to educational career and was taught to handle technology. So number 6, Every Student Succeeds Act or ASAA or ISA. The Every Student Succeeds Act ISA from 2015 is the primary federal law laying out how public schools are measured and held accountable for student achievement. It's not just for special education, it's for all public education. But overarching goal of the law is to make sure all students have equal opportunities. Under the ISA, the job a school is doing is partly assessed by how different groups of students perform. One of the groups the law uses to evaluate schools is students in special education. I think that you all understand what are the 6 laws that shape special education in United States. So let's move on to the history of special education in the United States. So students have not always have the right to special education. Before 1961, the United States did not publicly educate any children with any disabilities. If a child had cognitive or emotional disabilities, deafness, blindness, or needed speech therapy, parents had to educate their children at home or pay for private education. So before, the United States of America did not implement education for students with disabilities. If there are students with disabilities, they are taught only in home or pay for private education. Therefore, IDEA is crucially important federal law that enables individuals with disabilities to access education that they need to thrive now and later in life as adults. Given that special education is a complicated issue, this statute offers guidelines for educators and parents on how to implement special education for students with disabilities. It is a law that gives children and their parents rights to various issues within special education. This law also supports the development and use of assistive technologies in education. So I think that you all understand what is our topic for today. Let's move on to our activity. This is the group activity. So group 1, you are going to make a poster. So make a poster depicting the importance of the Individual with Disabilities Education Act using your drawing materials, give a short explanation, and choose one representatives to present it in front. And group 2, you are going to make a collage. So create a collage showing the 6 laws that shape special education in the United States using pictures, smartphones, and other materials. Give a short explanation and choose one representatives to present it in front of the class. So you are given 10 minutes allotted time for this activity. So let's move on to our criteria for grading. So content 15%, creativity 10%, delivery 15%, cooperation 10% with a total of 50%. So let's move on to our assessment. So test 1, fill in the blank. So instruction, write your answer in a one whole sheet of paper. And test 2, enumeration. In number 5 to 10, give the 6 laws that shape special education in United States. Test 3, essay. So 11 to 12, what is idea? 15, how does law shape our society? So that's all for today. Thank you for listening and God bless us all.